For me, it's very special to have Carl as a keynote speaker because he is a part of my agile journey. In 2012, when I decided to stop to work in the previous company because it was not really agile, I decided to get some training and courses, and I subscribed online a training, certified Scrum Master, and certified Product Owner. I want to do everything in 1 week. And I joined his company, and because I stayed 2 Scrum Master, Product Owner, we had some times and we had a good time, good Lebanese food in Paris. And we had some drinks also. And okay, so for me, Carl is someone who is part of my agile journey, and I hope he's going to give you an inspiration because he has a company that is doing agile, promoting agile, but is doing what he's promoting. And his company has been a laureate of the best place to work in France for the last 3 years. So how you can have an agile company.
Thank you. Thank you, Pierre, for the introduction. Thank you also to our sponsors. Pierre, thank you for inviting me. It's an honor for me to be here, specifically in this place where my father did his studies. So I'm proud to be here today with you. I want to thank you also for the partners that made this conference possible. So I'm going to talk about business. I don't give lessons. Don't know. I cannot give you formulas how to do things. I will just share an experience and share what we did at Zenika and share this with you. So about me. So my name is Azoury, and 10 plus 10 because I've been working for 20 years. The first 10 years as an IT guy, developing applications, software for different kind of clients. All the technologies you see here and the one that existed already at that time. And after 10 years, we decided to leave the company and to create our own company. And the motive for that at the beginning was to create the company where we wanted to work in as a developer. So we were not satisfied by the existing model, about the cliche, about the engineer that is in a cave coding code and that's it. And all the service company doing body shopping, sending people, invoicing, etc. So we really wanted to change that. And instead of going independent contractor, we decided to create the company where we would love to be in. So this is what we try to do since 10 years. This is my Twitter account. So if people want to connect whatsoever, it will be with pleasure. So a quick background about Zenika. This is our turnover. We're doing quite some growth every year. Now this year we'll be even at 21 million and not 20. We have been selected by the Deloitte Fast Technology 500 EMEA as the fast growing company, as the 500 fastest growing company in Europe, Middle East and Asia. 100% organic growth. In France, we started in Paris. We have now 6 agencies. We are 250 people. And we opened also in Singapore a few months ago. And like Pierre said, we've been elected as the great place to work in France in the category of the companies of less than 500 employees. And we have been ranked 4th company as a good place to work in France 2 years in a row. Some context elements. And before, a little story. As you can see on this picture, this is a hotel that is based on the top of Palais de Tokyo, a museum in Paris, and with the view on the Eiffel Tower. This hotel it's lasted 1 year. Everyone wants to go to this room, spend the night, and with the view on the Eiffel Tower. And but the rooms were put online for rent, just for 1 day, like a hotel. But only for the next 30 days. So, of course, it was fully booked. So the next day, you have to go and look, and when you go and look, it's already booked. Because they put the room online, so you can rent it randomly, any time in the day. So, because I was really motivated to go that, I decided to create my own software, to hack the system, to go and check the website every 5 seconds if the website has changed. If it has changed, it gives all my credentials, information, credit card number. And so I booked the hotel 7 times for me and for friends. So this story to show 2 things. First is that IT is everywhere, even to rent a hotel. Second, it's passion, fun, and passion and fun, and this is the keywords of my presentation, are also huge motivators to do things. And when we work in a company, the ideally is to keep fun and passion in what we do. So, before going further, I want to do a small test with you. And these are 2 circles. And you know those optical illusions where you try to find something that is not described on the image. So those 2 circles are not from the same size. So I want to do a test to see amongst you who thinks that the red circle is the biggest one. So you can raise your hands if you think that the red circle is the biggest one. Only 2, 3, 4. And who thinks that the blue circle is the biggest one? Oof, much more. So you're 30, 40 people. So let's see the conclusion of that. They're the same size. So I just, it's a small trick. And what I want to show with that trick is that I send you to the wrong path by saying that those 2 circles are the wrong size. Sorry? You're right, because we don't see the red one. Good catch. But thing is, sometimes we hear a lot of things, a lot of phrases saying that, oh, don't do that, be careful of that, this is not possible, etc. And in fact, we don't have to listen to what people say. As an example, we had someone who did a trainee in our company as a designer. And when I talked with him, he told me that his teachers told him, as a designer, do not apply to this company, it's an IT company, because they don't have place for you, so don't lose your time, don't apply to this company. He didn't follow what his teacher said, he applied to us, and he worked with us for a couple of months because we needed him. So he didn't listen to his teacher. So always try to believe in what seems natural for you. There are some phrases like, a startup is cool, but not the big corporates. This is what we hear every time. Big corporates are boring companies, startup is cooler. Other things that we can hear is happy employees equal a performing company. So of course it's better when we're happy and more productive, usually the company is more successful, but the shortcut to say that is wrong, because you can have happy employees but still not be successful. You can have a strategic match that is not good, you can have the market that is not good, etc. So the shortcut is not good, and having happy employees is more as a general philosophy, more a general pattern to start. And this is what we did 10 years ago when we wanted to create the company where we would have loved to be when we, as an engineers. So, another element of context before going into the presentation of what we do at Zenika. How many jobs are created in France in the private sector from mid-2013 to mid-2015? And if you look at the number, is only 57,000 jobs. So that's not a lot at all. And if you look on this slide, in the same period, in Italy, in Germany, and in Spain, much more jobs were created. Doesn't work.
Hello.
Hello, hello. You hear me better? No. So I'll continue with that. So this is to say that the context in France is hard for the unemployment, for the job. There's not a lot of jobs. You know that. Hello, hello. Okay, perfect, great. So, the sector is difficult, and for us it's quite crazy because, in fact, in the company, we're in market where there's a huge potential. IT is the market of tomorrow. There's a lot of work in IT business. A lot of work in IT business. It's more A lot of work in IT business, but still in a country where finding jobs is difficult. And so because there's a lot of work in the IT business, all IT companies always try to look cool, so to attract developers. And having a baby-foot or a ping-pong table in the company, it doesn't mean that the company is cool, because if you have a baby-foot in the company, and then you hear your boss say, okay, it's 2 p.m., what are you doing at the baby-foot? You have to go to work. So not having the baby-foot, that is, everything is about the mindset. But still, finding this and being lucky to be in this area, because if you look also, and the next element is, in this year in France, there was a lot of articles in the newspapers about solving the unemployment issue in France. And who will solve the unemployment issue in France? Would it be a Nobel Prize of economy? Would it be a very smart politician? In fact, it's Paul Douane that is supposed to solve the unemployment in France. He's listed in many newspapers, so I took two political opposite side for the newspapers. Everyone was speaking about this 22 years old big data expert that will data mine all the data and do the matching between job descriptions and CVs, resumes. And in fact, 10 years ago, you would never see in a newspaper that a 22 years old geek will solve the unemployment in France. It's a huge leap forward, and the future is all about IT. Despite the economical context in France, and seeing this, we are lucky with that, and the idea is to say, okay, and if the context was not that good, what we do, it should be for every company, and not only in our sector. So the world of tomorrow will mostly look like that. Geeks coding the world and using their laptops, their code, software. Software is everywhere, algorithm is everywhere, artificial intelligence, virtual reality, etc. So everything is driven by that. Most of the things are driven by that. So a small poll about you in the room. Who's familiar and works in an IT company? Okay, you're quite a few. Who works in a startup? Great. Who, you're not forced to answer the question. It can be confusing if your boss is just close to you. Who feels good in his company? Okay, it's perfect. Half of the room, almost. And the last question is, who thinks they take benefit from their company? Great. Great, thank you for your answers. So, the idea here is what we think of what the company should look like. And this is what a company should look like. It's a huge cliche, but in fact, what I'm talking about here, one of the things is the KISS. Maybe you know the KISS principle. Keep it simple and smart. You have another way of saying KISS? Yeah, but she's not available. So the KISS, this is symbolizing the KISS, keep it simple and smart. And the KISS principle is everywhere and should be everywhere, because sometimes we over-engineer things. And so it's going back to the basis, and let's see how the basis should look like. First of all, I want to do a parallel, because I'm an IT guy, so I'm using this parallel, and lucky you're quite a few of you in the IT sector. So you all know about web applications, about software. So for me, in a company, I took the parallel that a company is like an application, a web application. So first of all, when you create a web application, there's a need, there's a goal. So you have to, you will provide a product, a service, because people will buy it from you. And creating a company is the same thing. A company should have a goal. And this is one of the answers why a startup may seem cooler than a big corporate, because when you join a startup, you know the goal of the startup. I want to make people travel cheaper. I want to connect people. You can take all the startups you know of. The goal of the company is very clear. So there's much more empowerment. When you join a huge company, a big corporate, sometimes you don't know what's the goal of the company. The meaning has gone. Okay, they do insurance, they do banking, but nothing nothing empowering. So of course it depends on departments, etc. But this is one of the main reasons, having a goal, having meaning. Maybe you know the why, how, what of Simon Sinek. So the essence is why we do things. And as a company, you have customers. So customers in an application is web clients, like your browser that will connect to the application. In a company, you have real customers. And customers will interact with a first layer of the application with the business. So the salespeople that will connect with the customer and discuss with them and see how they can fulfill and sell them the product or the service. Afterwards, the salespeople will check in the company, so we're an IT company, services, who amongst the consultants will be able to do the job, who will be able to deliver the service to the client. And then you have a back office in the company. This back office is the accounting, the marketing, HR department. And everything then goes back to the bank as dollars if your company is successful. So you make money and you put this in the bank. Now, exactly like an application, more than that, you can have some transversal services. And also, customers can directly connect with the consultants. And I will speak about that later. And sometimes not going through the salespeople, so leaving one layer off so you can directly connect with the business layer. So transversal services, this is a huge part of companies, what they should do and what we try to do at Zenika. And here are a few examples. One of the examples is Z diversity that we created. So a lot of things that we do at Zenika starts with Z. It's not for Zoro, but it's for the Z marketing. So Z diversity is about having no discrimination, age, gender, religion, whatever, so nationality, etc. So because everything also evolves around human beings. So this is a strong commitment. Second, this is what we put in place is in Paris. It's very hard to find. I don't know the English word, but when you have babies, you want to nurseries. When you want to have your baby in a nursery, it's very hard to find places because a lot of demand. So the idea is to use the resources of the company to help get that. So to fund some of it. So our employees, when they have babies, they can have a room specific dedicated for their kids. And the idea is to have more and more services that you can provide your employees with. And this is one example of that. Second is the TED. You know all about TED conferences. So the idea here is also when you have trainings, when you are in your job, you will progress, you will get trainings about your job, about your skills. But the idea here is also to have other things, more for personal evolution, for something that will help you, not necessarily directly linked to your job, but also so you can have other perspectives. So for example, what we did, we invited chef d'orchestre, a conductor, orchestra conductor, who showed us the role of the conductor nowadays that is different than the role of a conductor 100 years ago. He's more listening to his musicians and less chief, but more a leader. And then you always have the position of the leader that is sometimes present when it's complex and that can get away a little bit to let his musician play alone. And he told us a story about an orchestra that had a very bad conductor that was too much happy with himself, proud of himself, but they didn't listen too much to him, and they start playing better than before because what they did is starting to listen to each other. And so they evolved and they got better. So it was very nice to have this conductor explain us how team should work and how team should connect. And then he made us sing, and I think you had songs this morning also. So he made us sing Carmen, and it was really impressive to see after half an hour 50 people singing Carmen. Other thing is values. So we have 3 values, sharing, conviviality, and transparency. And values are very important. Those values are not decided by us. After 3-4 years in the company, what we did, we were 40 employees, and we took them to 40 like this in a room, and we give them 3 post-its, you know, the famous papers, and we asked them to put a word about the company on each post-it. So they had only 3 words to put. And we took all the post-its, and then we started checking one by one the words. And the 3 words that came the most became our values. And we sometimes check our values again and again with people, and everyone are still connected to those 3 values. So it's interesting to see that they remain over time. And usually when we do things, for example, we have quite a hard time in one of our agencies at the moment, where someone will be leaving the company because maybe it's after many things he was not at the level of what expected from him. But it's everyone is expecting that, okay, this will happen, but let's do it by keeping our values. So the values will come every time. And someone told me 2 weeks ago that once you join the company, in the interview you explain the values, etc. But then once you're inside the company, those values, he told me, are not yours anymore. They are our values. So, and we want to respect them. So values are very important, and the transparency is someone that will come in the rest of the presentation, and it's one of very important value. Also, helping activities, sports, whatsoever. So this is also something that a company can help with people. And this one is the last thing, is helping our people to create their own company. If you have entrepreneurs amongst us, so Traffic is one of first startup that we created. We helped one of our consultants to leave the company. We helped him with all the administrative issues, banks, lawyers, etc., etc. And now he created his startup, and he's in a funding process. And if everything goes well, next year he should be in the US, and so we're very proud of that. And the idea here is that companies can help motivated people to create what they want and help them, and probably it will be a win-win for them and for us. And for us, it's also a win not only for him, and we invested part of his share capital, but it's also a win for us because everyone is proud that we helped him, and it gives a huge impact on the motivation of everyone. So this is a comparison because of my background, IT background, of a company and an application, but also it's not enough. And like any application, it's important to monitor it, to check if things goes well or wrong, because it's a human issue. So this looks perfect on the paper, but you can always have issues amongst people, etc. So there's 2 things. One is, this is why we contribute and we apply to the Great Place to Work. The Great Place to Work, to give you how the ranking is done, 2/3 of the note is done by questions that all the employees answer. There are 60 questions. And 1/3 of the note is our HR practices that are in a document, and then it's checked and compared to other companies. So 2/3 of the note comes from the employee. It's an anonymous process. And 1/3 about what we give, the culture audit that we give to the Great Place to Work. And for us, it's very important because we can see if what we expect to have is here or not. Second, we put in place also something called the mood of the month. And the mood of the month, just to show you what it is, mood of the month is something we put in place a year and a half ago. And the idea was to say, okay, every month they get an email, because we're IT guys, so we have our own applications. And they get an email, and they just have to do a click on sad, neutral, or happy. And then every month, as a manager, when people vote, I see if he votes sad, neutral, or happy. And all the managers have the obligation, when it's red, to contact the person in less than 24 hours and check with him, why did you have put red? Not to punish him, but to see if there's something we can do to change that. The funny thing is that before putting this in place, People were saying, we're a company, we're human size, we can talk, we don't need a tool, so we can give our mood, etc. But once it's in place, the discussion changed totally, and people use it. And because, okay, you can talk to your manager, okay, you have many ways to express what you want. This is one way like the other, and if you want to use it, you can. It's not the only way, so this is the important part. And the second important part is that, okay, it's anonymous. I only know about the people I manage, but this number is for the whole company every month. So every month, people can check the global mood of the company. And the idea behind that is that, okay, maybe you feel upset at that moment because you have a bad experience with your client, with your manager, whatever. But the idea is, okay, but how behaves the rest of the company? Two small stories about that. First month where this was in place was quite scary. How many reds will we have? 50% red, 40%. So it's just like transparency. It's putting yourself in danger and saying, okay, let's see what it goes out from that, and you don't know the numbers. So the first vote was 13% of red. So we phoned the people, and most of them had personal issues. My girlfriend left me, or I got stolen my cell phone, etc. So then they understood that it's more the mood that with your company, with your job, your business. But still, there's no indication. They can put red if they want, because even for their personal issues, maybe we can do something. Maybe we can help. If they need a small credit, instead of going to the bank, we can do it for them if it's small amounts, etc., etc. And after that, also, second small story, someone put red. I phoned him. So, okay, I saw you put red. Why? And he told me, you told me that if I put red, you would be phoning me in less than 24 hours. I wanted to check if that's true. So he was just testing me. And I say, okay, you're right. So we talked, etc. So it's quite an indicator, and we see when we follow it, we see the evolution of that. And this is one of the indicators we use on a day-to-day basis, amongst many others, but this is one of them. Transparency, always transparency, and agile is about transparency. So you want to do growth. The company will do growth, exactly like a web application. When you develop an application, you hope you have more and more users. It's scalable, etc. So growth and growing a company is always good. We know that. But what can happen when you grow a company, it can become a huge monolithic block that is very hard to maneuverate, to move. Decisions will take long, etc. And this is a huge demotivation factor in a lot of companies, where people say it takes a while to get a decision, it takes a while to buy that, it takes a while to take this decision. This is one of the reasons why startups are very successful nowadays. One of the reasons is that startups are agile, quick, and quick to deliver the promise. Of course, those companies can be very successful because they have huge processes, everything is under control, but there's less fun when you do that. Also, some of them are in danger, like Accor hotels and many other chain of hotels, like in danger with Airbnb. So still, there's not a long situation. It can be always dangerous, and big companies lack of this. But now they're catching up, and now there are more and more have digital innovation departments to behave like startups and the same speed like startups. So the idea here, what we do at Zenika is maybe you know about that word, the horizontal company, with a small unit. Instead of having a huge boat, having small boats. On each boat you have the crew. On each boat you have the captain of the boat, the leader. And each boat is very more reactive. They know, each one of them, they know exactly their situation. It's transparent. They don't need to know about the others, etc. So the idea here is to be more agile and to split. And this is what we do with our agencies. And this is why our growth model, I say that we are 250 people, but over 7 agencies. And the idea is to keep agencies small. Of course, Paris is bigger than the others. And so even in Paris, we are splitting the agencies. So we keep at a size of maximum 50 people. So we keep a human size, and everyone is responsible of its area, of its domain. And like applications, and the same idea of having small units instead of a huge one, like in a cluster, you will deploy the application, in that case the company, and so you'll have different companies model. Each agency is a small model of the global company. And transparency is very important because, and this is my last part of the talk about management, because technology and what I talked about in the beginning also impacts a lot the organizations and the management in companies. And if you don't want to micromanage someone, and what we call the management 1.0, and being on his back every day, knowing what he did, oh, tell me, what did you do today? How is your job, etc. So the contrary of that is transparency and having KPIs, indicators. And one of the KPIs we put in place is the elements of the company, budget, turnover, benefits, etc. And we can monitor for each agency. You just click on the agency and then you see the data of each agency. Because one of the things is when you want to manage people and let them take decisions, you have 3 criteria to let someone take a decision. First criteria is that the decision must be in the interest of the company. It seems obvious, but sometimes it's not. Second criteria is that you need to be skilled, of course. If you're not skilled, then maybe you need trainings, etc. So skill is very important. And the third part is to take a decision, you need to have the information. If you don't have information, you cannot take a decision. And sometimes some people in some organizations have some power or managers because they have the information and not the other. I knew about it, so I will take better decisions than you. But because they have more information. So the ideally is to share this information. So it's on our website, and all employees in the company can check some data about the company every day if they want, so they can take their decision on a day-to-day basis. So last thing, so what about the management? So maybe you know this book. I recommend this book. It's an English book, but this is the French version, but it has been sold in millions of the Minute Manager, Objective Minutes, Greeting Minutes, and Reprimand Minutes. And a quick story that is taken from this book is the person who works at his office, and you see him, he's not passionate, not dedicated, he does his job, and then he leaves. Okay. But when he goes at night, do a bowling, then you see him much more enthusiastic, much more involved, committed, happy. You throw the ball, you do a strike, you do a spare, you hit 0. But then you don't behave the same. And what's the difference between the two? When you work at your company or when you are at the bowling, what do you think makes the difference of attitude? Fun? This is one of the elements. Sorry? Action? Passion. Yes, passion. But another thing? Challenge? Yes. Space for mastery? Exactly. I am still waiting for a word. Autonomy, engagement. Okay, skills. So the word I was also looking for is feedbacks. Feedbacks. And this is very important. When you're at your job and you do report, or you work, you don't know if your job is satisfying or not. You don't know if people like what you do. You don't know if what you do is used by someone or not. Sometimes you don't have this feedback, or maybe you have it very long time after. But when you're at the bowling and you hit the 10 at the same time and you do a strike, you know that you did a good job. And feedback is very important. And feedback, you can see it. And this is why we see also a lot of passionate in IT, because when you develop a web application, like in this case, you run the application, you know if it works or not. So you have immediate feedback on your work. Unit test. There are some talks about testing. When you run tests, the tests are green, you know you did a good job. You have a feedback. And when you do agile sprints, and it's sprints of 2-3 weeks, immediately you have a feedback also. And so you know if you do a good job or not. So feedback is a very important thing, because we all are looking for acknowledgement about what we do. And of course, feedback is important to know if we did a good job or not, even for us. This is when you call a CEO. I'm the CEO of Zenika. and I don't consider myself as a chief executive officer, but as a chief enabler officer, to provide the space, and maybe some people know about the notion of host leadership, etc., to provide space so people can work. And I will finish with that, and I will take your questions. This is taken from a festival in the US called Burning Man, where everything seems possible. You build huge statues, artwork, and then after 2-3 weeks, you burn everything down. And for me, the 4 elements to get from the presentation is giving meanings. You know what you do things for. Empowerment. Of course, fun. Fun is very important. It's a huge motivator. Keep it simple. Human. It's all revolves around human and not processes. Processes are important, but everything revolves around human. And transparency. Transparency that you can find everywhere in any part of the in your work. And transparency not to victimize someone, but transparency to do continuous improvement. And one last thing, Zenika is the anagram of Kaizen. Maybe you know Kaizen, continuous improvement. So the idea is to able to continuously improve yourself, but to do that you need transparency. So thank you very much. I will take your... So I stopped. We still have 5 minutes. So if you have questions.
If there are some questions.
The first question is the hardest one. And there's no silly questions.
First of all, thank you for the nice presentation and for giving us a good image about corporates and companies. From my experience, I see that even when you work with either small teams or big teams, and you try to implement new methodologies like Scrum to make the culture and the environment more transparent, how can I say, keep improving and try to explain to people that it's okay to fail, you learn from your failure, you see a lot of resistance. Not only from management, but even from developers and engineers who have a little bit of experience and they don't want to get the chance to move to a better environment. They are like, I don't know how to say it, fridged or freezed in their actual environment.
No, you're totally right. I will not talk about the management because of course it will depend on the top management.
But yes, that's another problem.
Exactly. But even for the people directly involved, everyone is afraid of change. And when you change, you're always afraid to lose what you have. Because you lose. And the idea is to take them slowly into the past. And one of the ways to do that is to involve them in the change. So, for example, what we do, and this is what we try to do, maybe the solution focus. It's a way of, so we do meetups, solution focus around subjects. So what do you want to improve? And then we tell them, okay, tell us what you see. So we put the ideas. Then solution focus is also about measuring things, how it should look like. So you should be able to describe it. So everyone then agrees on what we want to have. And once everyone agrees on what we want to have, then it's easier to talk about the actions and the steps to go to that place. And even if you know that it's the good way to do it, you don't tell them how to do it. You let them tell you how to do it. Okay. It will be the same conclusion, yes, but it came from them and not from you. Okay. So this is one of the elements to take them with you. But of course, if everything is fine, everyone is happy, then they will not need to change specifically.
Okay.
So it depends on the goals you want to achieve, etc. also.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you for your inspiring speech. You're talking about transparency. Do you think we can be transparent regarding wages and salaries?
This is, I think, the salaries is the last step of transparency. I think it's possible, but when the culture and the environment is here, the salaries and everything else, what I talked about, what you can read in books, never apply what I said or what you read in books. This is what we tried at Zenika. It sometimes will give you a failure because you need the environment, you need the context, you need a lot of things. And even if you read something or you hear something and you're convinced of it, say, oh, it looks great, then everyone will say, oh no, he's crazy, we cannot do that. So the environment and the context is very important. So transparency in the salaries and wages could be possible, some companies do it, but you need a long path so everyone can accept it. But for us, when we do salary raises, etc., we always think in ourselves, if this is open and people know about it, we should be very sure of what we did. So there's no, okay, we're the same, why he's paid 20% more than me, we do the same job, etc. So we try to be fair with everyone. And because we know that people talk about their salaries, etc., etc. So everything is about the context. So I think it's possible. We're not yet there at Zenika. And maybe we could be there, but it will be with a long process and taking everyone into the path.
Thank you for your presentation. A question is, how do you address the challenges? I mean, what are the type of challenges you face when blending technical people with business marketing kind of profiles, and how you address them?
With that question, we don't have a lot of issues with that. Usually, people understand the goal and so they can talk, it's diversity. So we didn't have issues with that specifically. The issues we had, if you want to take some issues, is more about people thinking that they can do everything they want and be like a spoiled child. So thinking there's no more management, no more duties with the company, etc. The rest is very transparent, the rest is very working quite well. Business people, marketing people, developers, because the human being is put in the center of everything. So this usually goes well. It's not the main issue. So the question is about if we have a specific recruitment process. So yes, we have a very specific recruitment process in 3 steps. HR, technical. And in the process, every step of the process, the first process, of course, is HR. They have the values, they present the company, etc. The second step is a technical person who will do the interview. And he will check also if this person he interviewed, he can see him as a colleague or not. And then the third process is with managers, me, others. And again, and if anyone in the process says no or is hesitating, we don't do the recruitment. And it happens sometimes when I said yes, because I heard a lot about a person saying, oh, this guy is brilliant, you should work with him, etc. But when he had his interview, the 2 people who interviewed him said, no, he doesn't have the level. So I was surprised of what I heard from many people that were very confident about the skills of this person and the feedback of my team. So I said it's weird. So I wanted to check to understand where the difference comes from. And immediately the 2 person who had the interview with him say, Carl, it's not possible. We say that if we say no, it's no. Why you as a CEO, you come and you want to change the process? So yeah, everyone is very strong with that. And also when people say, okay, you're very skilled, but maybe when you hire people, you want to do some growth, so you will be less regarded on the process, and just because you want to hire people, say no, because you choose them, and so everyone has been chosen by the others of the company. So it's not us that decided that we want to hire him because we want to do some growth. Welcome.
Okay, so you mentioned here. So you mentioned that everyone appreciates feedback. So how do you communicate negative feedback to people?
Negative feedback, it should be communicated. There's one requirement before, is that be very clear on what you expect from the other. And this is all the purpose of the book Minute Manager, is that you should be in 1 minute you should be able to say to someone in 1 minute what you expect from him. And one of the director of the agencies told me, okay, Carl, what would you expect from me? And when we will see each other in 6 months, what do you need so you can say that I did a good job? And so once everything is known from the beginning, then it's very easy to do a negative feedback. We said we wanted that, we don't have that. So why? And then you can work on solutions, etc. But if you say we didn't have that, a negative feedback, say yes, but I didn't expect that, you told me, so I misunderstood, so the person is upset because he did from his best to get to this result, but it's not what you expected. So the first step is to be very clear on what you expect from each other. Yes, someone will get you the...
I just wanted to ask you, you said that you were growing. You were first a small startup and then you became, you have expanded. Is there a difference between how you used to work when you were smaller in size and how you work now? Do you find the challenges that big corporate environments usually have?
Tons of differences. It's not at all the same thing. And this is one of the main reasons why everyone is afraid or scared by the growth. How we want to solve that is with the processes and IT in the company. So, you know, there's a IT department, and even if we're a service company, we created an IT department 2 years ago, even if it's an investment. And I will take the example of Google. Google France, I had the chance to see the CEO of Google France talk on stage about his experience when he joined Google. And the first day, he went to get his laptop and his phone, that are company laptops and phone. And he arrived in a room where people come and get their material and then they leave. And he was surprised because people come, say hello, take the laptop, take the cell phone, and then they leave. Very easy process. Say, okay, Google, they give away laptops and cell phones. But in fact, he realized that when he comes to the table scanned his badge, the laptop, the cell phone are put on the table, everything is scanned, everything is in the process. You're allowed of one laptop every 3 years. So all the process are here to make sure that you don't spend money or everything is controlled, because at this size, but for the people experience, the user experience is totally different. There's no process. You just arrive to the table, take your laptop and leave, but everything was recorded. So one of the way to achieve, hopefully, the growth and keep the spirit of a startup and a size company is first having those small units instead of a big one, and then is having very strict processes to control and to monitor and to drive the company, but to make those processes the most transparent possible. And IT will help a lot for that.
Hi. How transparent are you in terms of the status of your company, like the profits that you're making? Like some employees might be interested about that in terms of their career path. And how do you motivate an employee who's suddenly demotivated and he used to be a very motivated person?
Yeah, when the motivation leaves, it's a hard question. I don't have exactly, we experienced that. Some employees that after a few years changed state, changed motivation, left the company. So we try by explaining, communicating, trying to find with management, not only every year when you do the annual interview, but also during the way, finding the good profiles. When we launch new products, new services, we know who is able to work on that, so we try to see them. And having small units, it's easier for the manager to know very well his team, because it's small teams, not big teams. So this is one of the ways, but it's a very hard question. And when people leave the company, one indicator we have, we're a service company, so we check if people, when they leave us, if they go to competitors or to others. And so we have some turnover, people leave Zenika, but none of the people who left, except one, go to another IT company like us or to a competitor. They go to a startup, they go as a contractor, they go to another country, but not to another company like us. And the only one who left to another company like us is because this other company did him a salary raise of 50%. So he told me, they bought me, I have to leave. I said, okay, I know. You did well. So any more questions? Maybe a last one? Because there's a program to continue.
Excuse me, if you wanted to hack a hotel room system today, would you do it yourself or would you order an employee to do it for you?
I think we would do hackathons with our employees to hack a lot of things. I won't do it myself, but I was happy to do it myself because, as I said, I worked as an engineer and I still want to know that I'm still knowing what I talk about. So thank you for your questions. Thank you very much.